Hello, folks, and welcome back. This is Chris live in Central Pennsylvania with a special guest today, one of the original 59ers. No, not the 49ers who went to California to find gold in the 19th century. And, of course, the famous football team is named after them, the San Francisco 49ers. But the 59ers, the first 59, not 49, as the lying South African media told you, first 59 South Africans who came to the United States with refugee status. And my guest is, that's not his real name, it's not Hermon, but we're calling him Hermon today. And Hermon has had the great fortune to be based in Hawaii. Aloha, Hermon. How are the beaches out there in Hawaii?
Morning, Colonel. No, it's actually quite nice, sunny outside. I love the surfing.
Yeah, no, he's not in Hawaii. No refugees going to Hawaii, folks. The cost of living is too high, and Hawaii can afford that. But Hermon agreed to come on because there's a lot of he actually reached out to me. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation going out there by government actors and by people in the private sector. And we wanted to talk about this today, about his experience arriving here. Of course, now, this is the fourth family, so to speak, or group of folks that I've spoken to who've arrived in the States from that original 59 group. And so Hermon and I are going to talk a little bit about what the process was like, how he got over here, what's the adjustment like, the refugee assistance, because we've heard glowing things from Thea. We've heard glowing things from Jan and Mariki. For Santana, not as glowing, but that's because they chose to be away from where their agent's at, and they understood they'd be away, but the agent has helped them, but not quite the same thing, but still a good reception, and that's because she went where her sister's at. So in the case of Hermon, he's got himself here in the States. Hermon, you came over with the original 59, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so how did that go? Did you send in a PRM email, and did you find that on your own, or did you happen to watch my program? How'd you find out about the PRM email?
Yes, Colonel. Well, I've been following your channel for quite a while, and it was actually a conversation that you had on one of your programs. I initially sent just the email, a basic email. This is Hermon. I'm interested in the program. But after one of your videos, you made a specific point where you need to at least have some basic details in your email. Don't write the essay, but you understand, don't just send a sticky note. And on that second email to the PRM address, I was then contacted and asked to come in for the interview.
All right, excellent. So you went, of course, got your interview, you got the medical exams and all that. And it was less than 3 months, and you found yourself landing in the States.
That was quite a shock, yes.
How were you caught off guard when they called you and said, hey, it's time to go?
Well, in our case, it was actually quite shocking. And this is where I want to compliment you. You were spot on with the initial interpretation of what the intent was with the first group. It was basically a rehearsal for the program to come. In a nutshell, I don't want to generalize too much, but they specifically also tested us to see, are these people serious? You understand? Are we there for a nice ride to America, or are we? Is it really the case? Are people willing to, at short notice, travel? Are people serious about getting their stuff in order? The whole debate about the pets.
Yeah.
You understand? So I think it was, but yeah, as you rightfully said, it was quite a shock. We had to travel on very, very short notice. But nonetheless, our decision was made long before we committed to travel. And I think that is important to everyone considering this. It's a monumental decision to take. And we took it to heart. We prayed about it. And we decided that this is what we need. And that's the circumstances that we were living.
There's a couple points I want to bring out here, Hermon. The first is that unlike many of the first cohort of refugees, you actually are a boer. You're actually a farmer, right?
That is correct, yes.
So the media is obsessed with this being about farmers. Well, in your case, it's true. It's about a farmer.
Yeah, no. I'm the one that toiled in the soil, actually.
Well, the other piece of this, too, is that because a lot of people are complaining about having to travel to Pretoria, but now, as I've announced, they'll be doing interviews in Johannesburg as well. That doesn't quite solve the problem for people in Uppington or people in Mpumalanga or, in Limpopo or Eastern Cape, but still, it's more another location for it. But you had to travel quite a distance to get to that interview, didn't you?
Yeah, no, most definitely, Colonel. And it was actually quite let me put it, stressful. Specifically for us being farmers, being away from your farm is actually quite dangerous back home. Yeah, you understand? So, I mean, we had to make arrangements for someone to look after the farm every time we went in. You need to take the kids with every time that you travel. So, I mean, there was a lot of logistics. But at the end of the day, if you made the decision for the right reasons, you find a way to handle these things. There's no case for concern. And I must admit, from the embassy in Pretoria to the consulate in Johannesburg, they went above and beyond to accommodate the kids, to assist us when we arrived there. We were asked for, you understand, will the times and dates suit you? So it's not a question of that it's the moment you miss a 9 o'clock, you understand that you're out of the program. They were fairly accommodative.
Yeah, no, it's. I think there's an apropos phrase here that fits this perfectly from Afrikaans and Boa Makan. Yeah.
No, most definitely. That is spot on. That is spot on. No, I must commend the entire program thus far, especially in the early days. They went above and beyond. It was unbelievable the amount of compassion, assistance, and so forth. And just to add on that. I want to make it clear that there's a fundamental difference, and that's something that's quite unique to the American way of doing things. They're very compassionate in everything and accommodative towards us, but at no point that they break any rule or bend any rule. And that was quite interesting for me. You understand, you'll go from a very informal conversation, how are you and everything, how's the kids, to a very formal situation very quickly. And that was quite refreshing to see the professionalism and so forth. And I think it's important for everyone to note.
Well, and appreciate it and understand that many of the people that work for the State Department come on both sides of the political aisle, yet they did their jobs regardless of what was going on, didn't they?
Exactly. And I think there you summed up what I was trying to say. Their level of professionalism is above and beyond. And that's something that we're not used to back home. I mean, back in South Africa, you typically assess the situation based on what the guy's orientation would be, how he's going to treat you. And their ability to switch from a normal conversation to strict professionalism was amazing to see.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual experience of leaving. I heard Earl's interview. Earl did offer to come on my channel, but I missed his message, and he's going to come out at some point. But Earl Langdon down in Alabama, since he's been outed by everybody, including himself. But Earl is down in Alabama, which apparently, according to Annika Larson, is one of the most racist places in America. I'm paraphrasing. She didn't actually say that, but it was a bit of a dig about Alabama. And she's talked about Alabama 60 years ago. But anyway, so Earl said that when you were getting ready to depart from the hotels, there was a security concern. There was I don't know if there's a threat or something, but were you aware of that? Is that true? Did you guys have concern as you went to the airport?
Yeah, no, that unfortunately is very true, Colonel. In fact, it got very bad quite quickly, sad to say. And there's actually quite a few pointers out of that exercise. So the media, they were relentless. I mean, it was extremely bad. The amount of disrespect that they showed towards the children specifically. I mean, they phoned them. They wanted to chat up conversations with the kids, which I regarded as very, very unprofessional.
Well, it's highly inappropriate. It violates journalistic standards.
Exactly. And they physically harassed us through the entire process from arriving with the shuttles all the way through the final check-ins. The airport staff eventually had to bar them in certain areas. But once again, it was, and ironically, we saw a few gentlemen and ladies standing at strategic positions, and they very quickly stepped in. And you could see they're from the uniform branch of the US. And they made us feel very safe. Very quickly.
That's good to hear. So let me ask you this question. So the BBC falsely, erroneously lyingly reported that they had the first interview with a refugee when they spoke to Charles in Buffalo, New York. That's factually untrue. I had the first refugee interview. I interviewed Thea in Linwood Bridge in Pretoria on the Saturday. Of course, you flew on Sunday. Any chance that you or anybody knew about that interview, or when did you find out about my interview that I did with Thea?
I actually greeted you through the window passing by.
Are you serious? No.
Yeah. No, you were busy in the process. So, but I waved as I was walking by. I wanted to pop in, but that would have been rude.
Okay.
But yeah, we knew you were there, and for sure you were by far the first. Actually, just after that interview, everything started going south with regards to the rest of the media.
Right, but that interview I didn't release until you landed on the ground to protect your safety.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah, no, it's not because of that interview, but to give you a timeline, basically, shortly after that, ironically, it was the personnel at the hotel, one of the hotels where we went through some preparations and so forth. They doxed us, and then something that was very peculiar for us. The moment we arrived at the airport itself, there was two gentlemen pretending to be airport staff that walked around and gathered travelers' information, and they wanted to see your travel passes and stuff like that. And lo and behold, 10 minutes later on the phone, this guy was reporting for one of the news stations in South Africa. So, but they were quickly sorted out by the security details.
Well, there's a parking garage just outside the terminal where I could have sorted them out. But seriously, okay. So let's. You came over. You landed in Washington. And some of the folks came out from behind the curtain, some stayed behind the curtain. And that allowed the media allow people their privacy, but also allowed the media to get away with their false narrative that this was about white farmers, which it wasn't, which I've said all along. It's not about white farmers. Because there was actually a colored couple with their children in that first cohort. Multiple sources confirm that. Can you also confirm that?
Yeah, no, that's most definitely. And that is probably one of the big misconceptions. You don't have to be part of the AWB or Broederbond to qualify. And at no stage whatsoever, throughout this entire process, was there any racial connotations or anything in this process. I must admit, you understand, it is actually quite difficult to comprehend because 99% of all of these things are merit-based. It's something that we're not used to back in South Africa. So you understand, from qualifying through the whole process, they look at you as an individual. There's no skin color involved.
So what I'm getting from repeated comments from you here is that you were not taken aback, but I mean, just really not accustomed to bureaucrats having a job and doing it without putting their personal opinions and views into it and providing you the same level of service regardless of who you were.
Exactly. It's phenomenal to see. It's truly phenomenal to see. Really, we're not used to it. And that for us is kind of like a culture shock. Sad to say, we've been accomplished to the opposite back in South Africa for so many years that you're not used to anyone looking at you in front of the desk.
Yeah, Carl Becker's asking a question in the chat, which isn't germane, Carl. He's asking how long a part of the interviews. It doesn't matter. Hermon was part of what I described accurately, and the State Department confirmed that after these folks were already in the air, when I spoke to U.S. officials, they said that my description of calling it a pilot project, a proof of concept, is exactly what it was. So how many interviews he had isn't germane to what's happening going forward. You may get one interview, you might be called back to clarify something, you might have another interview. We don't know because the people who are being called in now who've applied since or split their statement of interest since the 12th of May, some have been called in already at least once. We don't know how it's going to go. So, Carl, you can ask that question, but it's not really important whether he had 2 or 3 interviews. I know at least a couple people that went in 3 different times. I don't think everybody went in 3 times.
Most definitely. It's going to be fundamentally different.
Yeah.
As I said, I didn't want to call it a trial program, but they had to shape the whole program and tailor it towards South Africa specifically, the demographics and everything. I mean, people had to fly in, people had different appointments. At some days we had 2-3 appointments concurrently, you understand. So there was a lot of, I don't want to say trial and error, but logistics that they planned and everything. And you could really see as the days progressed, you understand, how they honed the whole process and everything. And same with landing on this side. We were received on short notice this side, very professional again. But even this process on this side is changing to a certain degree. It's now formalized. It's now in place. There's a standard operating procedure now in place. Whereas with us, they were shaping that to a certain extent.
Well, there's actually a reason for that, and I'll go into it in just a moment. You can confirm it from your perspective, but there's a question that I want you to answer. Michelle Kingsley asked the question, which I know the answer. Do you feel safe?
Colonel, it's unbelievable. Where I sit here, I get goosebumps. You won't believe the first 2-3 nights after arriving here. All 3 of my kids still got up in the middle of the night. They used to have night terrors and stuff back home because of the situation on the farm. The first 3 nights, I woke up and grabbed towards my side dresser table for where my firearm used to be back home every night. The 4th night, I realized, you know what, Chris? Breathe. You don't have to do it. Now all of my children sleep throughout the night without any issue. And for the first time, I've left the window open at night. The other day, we forgot to lock the front door. It is unbelievable. It is fundamentally a different world. That constant fear and battle for survival. And it's going to take some time to get used to not having to live like that. But it is unbelievable. You cannot describe for someone the difference that it makes to a family unit. Not having to lock yourself up in a jail every night. It is truly unbelievable.
No, I can imagine. So I want to go back to that point, and then there's another question I'll get back to, but that point I had a moment ago. So you talk about now that the thing is in place. People have to understand that the programs exist. We have the Immigration Nationality Act of 1980, and we fund that through Congress every year for 300 plus non-government organizations around the country to resettle folks. But in this case, for this pilot project, and that's the reason why there had to be a proof of concept for this, because we don't often do in-country resettlement. That's what this is. Usually refugees are people who fled a country, but the U.S. law allows for a different category, and that's what's happening in South Africa. So because President Trump suspended the entire refugee program and all the funding, which usually provides for refugee assistance for those NGOs, they fund them, that money was frozen for 90 days. And these people came over while that money was frozen. So they had to carve some money out from elsewhere in the State Department budget to fund a small group of people to come over, 59. And then they still didn't have enough money, so they partnered with states that said they'd be willing to pick up half the cost. I believe that's how it played out. So when you're saying there's a process in place, there's always been a process in place, but that process was frozen for 90 days. And now that money is being reactivated, and they're starting to bring refugees in from other places. In fact, I think some Afghans will be coming in soon. Hermon, does that sound right to you?
Spot on, Colonel. No, that's exactly how it happened. And that's why we were fairly limited to the different states that we could go to. It was because of the initial states having the capacity to accept us, whereas, and that's what I mean by the process is open now. All the states are now ready. Everyone is in place. And as you said, the original system is back up and running again.
Right, which I think is important, is all these people running around, why do white people get to go and nobody else does? Shut up. 3.1 million people have come here since 1980 in the refugee program. Almost all of them are so-called people of color. Nobody cried when Biden brought 300,000 white Ukrainians and dumped them in our neighborhoods without proper vetting. So anyway. And by the way, Trump brought in hundreds of thousands of, Somalis and Congolese and Mauritanians and Uyghurs and anyway, Rohingya when he was president in his first term. So these people are just, they're just bum hurt. So okay, so there's a question here. Somebody says, what are you planning on farming? Okay, I'm going to have to break the news to folks. Hermon is one of the farmers that actually came over. But they put Hermon in a place where you don't farm. So I'm not sure what his plans are, but he's not exactly in a farming location. So do you have plans of maybe farming in the future, or you're going to look for something else in the short term?
No, That's an understatement. Yeah, no, it was quite a shock. But yeah, boer maak 'n plan. The analogy rings true again. Now, for the short run, I'm looking at alternatives. And you never know. Maybe we'll invent a way of farming even in this in this area.
Yeah, you find yourself in a metropolitan area, which is not exactly conducive to farming, unless you're going to do, I don't know, greenhouse farming. But maybe that'll come in the future. But it's ironic that everyone claimed this program was about farmers. You actually are a farmer, and instead of sending you to well, just to a place out where you're not at. They didn't send you to Kansas. Let's just say that. That's a perfect place to farm. No. Yeah, so they put you in a place where it's not so easy to farm. But you feel safe there. Are you still in a temporary lodging, or have you moved into permanent stuff yet?
So, yeah, our personal situation is a tiny bit different than most. We would be in our permanent residence within the next week or so, but it's only due to the landlord renovating the place. So we said, no, that's fine. Finish painting and everything. We don't want to be in the middle of that. Otherwise, we would have been already moved in. And so is about 90% of all the 59ers already almost in their permanent residences. And just to add on, sorry, Colonel, to interrupt you, your previous point, it's also very important that at no point are you locked up in a state or a town. And there's something that they drive in quite continuously, is that this is a free country, and when they say that, they actually mean it. So if you have the means, you can move at any given time to anywhere you want in this country. You understand? You're not bound to where you arrive, but they advise you to rather stay there for the first few months in order to settle, get your paperwork in place, and so forth. We made a joke at the Social Security office. You understand? There's no Coca-Cola payments here. You understand? You'll end up in jail if you try something like that. So it's important that you get all your paperwork and everything in order. And that takes a week or two to do. And you can't do that if you're constantly traveling between states and stuff like that.
Well, that's the whole idea behind the concept. So, originally they used to bring people over the refugee program, not from South Africa, from these other countries. And a lot of them had family already here, or they had a place they wanted to go, or they wanted to be where there's a cluster of people from their home country. So they felt comfortable. And they would just say, I'll go anywhere. And then they would just put them anywhere. And so they put people like in North Dakota, from Somalia. Well, they're going to freeze their butt off up there. And by the way, the Somalis are all in Atlanta. So they get here and they've got a structure in place to help them with assistance. And they just get up and leave and take a bus and go to Atlanta, where there's no structure for them. And the USCIS quickly discovered that for the Refugee Assistance Program, that really what they do is put you in temporary housing when you arrive to let you catch your breath, meet with the refugee agent, find out what's really going on with you, because a lot of these people want to move right away and they have to make arrangements for that. But yeah, it's interesting that this complaint about this family, we haven't really got into it yet, that had no money and they had no food and stuff. And then these people who are rubbishing the program going, oh, these people, they expected this and they expected that. I find it hilarious listening to these people. I served in the Army. When I came to Pennsylvania from Ethiopia, I only get 7 or 10 days of temporary lodging paid for by the Army for the hotel. Active duty military. I work for them. They're my employer. They brought me here. There was no housing for me. I had to stay in a hotel. I negotiated the rate down, but it cost me over $3,000, 60,000 Rand a month to pay that hotel for 3 months before I could move into my house, waiting for a residency permit for the house. So, this stupidity of people still in a hotel 2 weeks or a month after they arrive in the country is beyond brain dead. But as you said, 90% of the 59ers are already into their permanent lodging.
No, most definitely. In fact, I would say a good 80% are already employed, and a good 50% of those that are employed are already in their dream jobs. We have a local group that we communicate on, and you would see the banter on there. It's actually quite funny.
Well, so Hermon, that raises the question. I'm curious. So, do you enjoy being a car guard in America, or are you working as a caddy at a golf course?
I'm unfortunately, I couldn't qualify for a car guard this night. I had to settle for the office job.
There you go. So do you already have an offer of employment, or are you actually already working?
No. I'm not at the very moment. We're waiting for our permanent residency because it's unfortunately for the layout of the city, that's going to be on the opposite side. So
Okay.
you understand it as
I
travel
got it.
implications.
So because it's yeah, you're waiting to get into your residence, your place before you. Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. What has been, other than obviously the sense of safety and comfort, lack of fear, what has been the biggest culture shock so far? You've been here 1 month today, so I mean, what is this? Is it the Coke that tastes like crap? Is it? I mean, there's no braais going on where you're at. Is it? Are you missing the Duravourus? What's the biggest culture shock? Driving on the correct side of the road, perhaps?
I must admit, we have a shuttle that picks us up so every now and then to take us for different appointments and so forth. And every time I walk up to the vehicle, I'm on the on the driver's side. So it took a few days to figure out. No, I would say, Colonel, the biggest shock for us is the amount of autonomy and independence. You're not used to that. And I almost want to say it's not bureaucracy, but there's still so much that is functioning this side versus back home. It is common sense and expected of you to have all of these paperwork in place. Whereas back home, I mean, if you drove without a license for 2 years, you understand, yeah, you can't do that. It's impossible.
No, you're gonna get a citation.
No. You understand? So I won't say it's a culture shock, but the day-to-day adherence to law and order and so forth is actually refreshing. I mean, just from the medical perspective, I've been to so many medical checkups. I think I've had more in the last 2 weeks that I had in the previous 20 years of my life. You understand? And nothing is forced upon you, any jabs and all of that. That's a whole lot of misperception that I see that makes the rounds as well. But they genuinely care about us. And you're not used to that. When you arrive there, they genuinely care about the kids. They genuinely care about your health and that you're a productive, healthy citizen that is knowledgeable about society. That's very important. And I think that is a big part of this program is the assimilation into society. Wanting to make sure that you understand that we assimilate into the American culture and way of doing things. You need to do things by the book and you need to do it correctly. But that's a good point. That's not to see it function so well because a lot of our perception is shaped by either social media or the movies. And that's not the America that you walk into, to be very, very frank.
No, what you see in the movies is not America. That's a point I try to make to people all the time, which is funny because you get people who have wildly inaccurate views of America and want to come here because for all the wrong reasons. And then you get people that think America's terrible because of all the wrong reasons. Like someone was asking about school shootings yesterday. I've lived in nearly 40 of the lower 48 states, and I've never been involved in a shooting in my life and never even had anyone within earshot, never heard gunfire in America in my entire life, including living in urban centers. So, it's the media loves to overstate and blow things up and make things seem much worse than they actually are. Like right now, they're running around screaming, there's a measles epidemic in America. There's 160 cases, and almost every one of them is an illegal alien who came across the border who isn't vaccinated. That's not an epidemic. That's not even a pandemic. That's simply a small outbreak of people who shouldn't be in the country, but that's a whole other story. So, what about the food? How you adjust into food?
Yeah, I must admit, summer potatoes back home taste much better.
Okay, we know he's not in Idaho because they have the best potatoes in the world.
Is it? Well, then I need to import some potatoes from Idaho.
You should go when you go to the supermarket. Make sure you get potatoes from Idaho. They are the absolute best in the world. That's McDonald's only gets its potatoes from Idaho. That's to make their French fries. Yep, because they're very strict about it. But anyway, all right. So you like the potatoes better in South Africa? Okay. What else?
Yeah, no, for sure. I must admit the sugar problem. You've always heard about it. I've never seen everything already coming coated in sugar before, like this place.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's a lot of that. Americans are also pretty heavily caffeinated.
Yeah, no, most definitely, most definitely. Yeah, no, but apart from that, I mean, I must admit, there's no fundamental difference. The meat here is good. I must admit, the general quality is much better than what we used to, or the consistency. Let me rather
Yeah.
put it that way. And then the sizes of the portions. Everything is big.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better watch your kids. They'll balloon up on you there. Keep them under control because they do give out big
Yeah.
portions. They used to the adult portions or the children's portions today were the adult portions back in the day when I was a kid, but they get a little carried away. Somebody in the chat saying the water in America tastes like pool water. Okay, well, this is a country with 330 million people and about 18 billion sources of water, including the largest system of fresh water on the planet with the Great Lakes. I mean, come on. How about you qualify your statement there? The water tastes like pool water. You must have been in some municipal situation where they over chlorinated the water. My water is fine. And, I don't drink tap water anyway since I moved off the farm. But I used to get water from a cistern. And water is water unless it happens to run through minerals or it's polluted. So I'm not sure where you're at. But don't drink the water from Flint, Michigan. I was at a government institution. For mental health? No, I'm just teasing. Sorry. That was a comment in the chat. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Sorry, choking here. Anyway, so what's been the biggest disappointment? It can't be all sunshine and sunshine, rainbows, and flowers. There has to be something that's frustrating. Are you missing a home? Or is something here that not happened that you thought might happen?
No, Colonel, to be very honest with you, I can't really say a lot about that. Something that is maybe difficult is, you understand, we walked in here with a zero credit score.
Which is something I warned people about.
Yeah, and that was quite a shock. You understand, you used to a certain degree of availability to banks or access to banks and credit and stuff like that back home, and you need to build that back up again. There's no links between the two countries to that extent or much less than what I anticipated. So you're starting here with a blank slate to a large degree that you need to build up. But then on the opposite side, to do it is so much easier this side. You understand? So the adage of you need to get up, roll up your sleeves, and go out there applies to a large extent. So. I must admit that was a bit of a shock for us. I mean, and everything functions around that score. So you need to work that up and get that in place. But I mean, the moment you're employed, the moment you buy a vehicle and so forth, you start ticking off on that. But you're not going to walk in here and open 10 credit cards and buy $1 million house. Unless you have the cash in hand.
Yeah, unless you have that money. No, but I caution people that I said the one thing you're going to find out is you're going to get here and you have no credit score. So you can't borrow money. It's going to be difficult to get started. But it's not impossible. Arctic, who has a green card and is a pilot over here in the U.S., goes back and forth between the U.S. and South Africa frequently. Arctic shared with people how he helped establish his credit. And he, of course, he had very good credit rating. He's a responsible adult, but no credit rating here. You go to Walmart, get yourself one of those prepaid cards. It's a Visa or MasterCard. And you can only spend what's on it. So you can't go in the hole, and you basically gets paid off all the time because it's a prepaid card. And after a few months, you're there. But I have to caution you, Hermon, and anyone else that's listening, you need to make sure that you pay your bills. And I'm talking about things like, your rates, you call it in South Africa. If you have a utility bill, make sure you pay it on time every time. For electricity, for gas, for water, whatever bill you have, make sure you pay that. Because if you miss payments, it hurts your credit score, and it's difficult to recover that credit score if you let it go down. Also, if you get a credit card at some point, never use more than about a third of it if you can avoid that. And if you can, pay it off in full every month. I have a lot of credit cards, and I use them as what we call charge cards because it didn't used to be credit cards. Back in the day, it was a charge card. You had to pay it off every month. Otherwise, it was a fine. So I use them as charge cards, even though they're credit cards, which keeps a great credit score for me because I always pay on time and I don't carry a balance. So those are just some tips for building your credit history, but it'll come pretty quickly. Once you've got a job, money going into the bank account, and you're paying your utilities, you'll start building that credit score, and it'll get up there pretty quickly. And the less likely you are to miss a payment, the quicker you'll get a higher score. And that's important for everybody to come over here to understand. And I think you've caught on to that, is that your life is really dictated by your credit score, whether you like it or not. So there's two things you need to do. Protect your personal information. Be very careful and circumspect about where you have it, who you give it to, how you handle it. Don't be sending it in open emails, your social security number and stuff like that, because identity theft is a real problem. It's a genuine problem the world over, but especially here in the States. And people steal your identity. So protect your identity. That's one thing you have to do. And the other thing you have to do is build that credit score, because when you want to borrow money, I'll give you an example here, Hermon. When I bought my Toyota 4Runner, I got, this was 2004, the interest rates for cars were running about 6.75% to buy a new car. My interest rate was 1.75%.
Jeez.
Because I had sterling credit, and they know they're going to get their money back. Yeah. So that's the difference. So that's why it's important, because if you have good credit rating, when you go to look at an apartment or a condominium or to buy something, but especially going to rent someplace, they do credit checks on you to see if you're reliable and you pay your rent. And so if you have a great credit score, you're likely to get to place. But if you don't have a great credit score, and they deny you, don't run around going, it's because they're racist. So what about
most definitely. You're spot on with that one. And they basically, that is your digital identity out there, is your credit score to a large extent.
It is.
You're spot on with that one.
So I've got a question. Before I get to my question, Baby Dino asked a question about whether you closed your bank accounts and things back in South Africa. And before you answer that, I need to reiterate to people, which I did in a video I published shortly before this interview. When you flee from a country, whether it's through in-country refugee status or going to a third country and then being evacuated, you have not abrogated your rights to citizenship. You have not abandoned your country. It was simply unsafe for you to be there. And that state has an obligation to protect your rights. If you own property in South Africa, it's still your property. You can vote in South Africa even if you're a refugee. Yeah, that's right, folks. I saw something today, someone claiming that the South African DIRCO said that they weren't going to provide diplomatic services to refugees. Well, if they do that, they're going to find themselves in trouble, because that country still has an obligation to protect your rights as a citizen of South Africa. So with that in mind, Baby Dino is asking, did you close your accounts and that sort of thing? Did you keep them open?
No, we didn't have the opportunity to wrap up everything back home because of the logistics and everything. But we've been unwinding everything since day one to a large extent. I mean, there was simply not enough time to do everything, but I mean, there is still obligations back in South Africa that needs to be settled and so forth. And that is something that you can maybe warn the listeners on. Do not think that you're going to run away from debt and stuff back home. You need to sort it out, settle it out, because there is ways and means that criminality back home can be communicated to this side. And they've made it very clear they're not going to tolerate any scoundrels this side. So don't think you're going to run away and have everything forgotten the moment you're this side, especially with the international banks, the big banks and so forth. They do communicate amongst each other. They're all interconnected with each other. So if I can give a bit of advice, wrap up your stuff properly back in South Africa, but you can do it from this side. There's no need that you need to delay the whole refugee program. And I mean, it almost points back to the conversation about the pets. If you think you're going to come here for a holiday, you're in for a very big surprise. So if you are genuinely fleeing South Africa for the right reasons, you understand, there's no time for all of these shenanigans. You need to pack your bags, get on the plane, and commit to it.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat about buying a car. Where people buy, you can buy whatever you want. You know, if it's legal, you can buy it. You want to buy, Mar-a-Lago, you got $1 billion. I'm sure Trump might consider selling it to you. You can buy what you want, but I mean, unless you're independently wealthy, I don't know where you're going to come up with the money. The cheapest new car you're going to get is going to run at least $23,000. We're talking R500,000. So I'm not sure how you come up with that money and without a credit rating. Now, if you have money and you deposit in a bank may give you a loan. I mean, that's so. But you can buy anything you want that's legal over here. There's no restrictions on it. You can buy it the day you arrive. In fact, Thea bought a car. She didn't even have a driver's license, so she couldn't drive it, but she had a car. So it's obviously she's sorting through that to get her driver's license. But the point is that she didn't wait. She had an opportunity to get a good deal. She got a good deal and she bought it. But again, the key thing is when you buy something. Most people, I mean, like a new car, I would like to have a pickup truck, a bucky. But a bucky is $60,000 for a decent one. Brand new. $60,000. See how much money that is. That's insane. Millions of rand. I don't have that kind of money sitting around, so I'd have to get a loan. Now I've got a credit history. I can walk in right now and I could walk out of the car lot today with a brand new Bucky and a $60,000 one. But I also have a monthly payment, which I don't want. And I have a new insurance bill, which I don't want. But the point is I can do that because of my credit rating. But the refugees aren't necessarily going to have that unless they've got some coin that they can put in the bank. So you can buy a new car. But I suspect most people buy a used car, which unfortunately the market has been driven upwards by the inflation because of Biden the past 4 years. So used cars became much more dear and expensive in the past 4 years. They used to be very inexpensive, but you can always find a decent car. So I mean, it's not that big a deal. But one thing you have to understand, no matter where you go in America, unless you live in Manhattan, you need a car. You need a car.
Yeah, no, definitely, Carol. But I must admit, there's plenty enough good second-hand cars here available. So I mean, if you get the first opportunity to get on your feet, is so simple. It's actually competitively still cheaper this side, vehicle-wise. That is something that's fundamentally different from back in South Africa. A Mercedes here is an average car, whereas back home you need to sell your grandmother to afford it.
Well, okay, Hermon, I have to point out that you're obviously in a much richer neighborhood than I am. I only know of one Mercedes within, shouting distance of where I'm at. I mean, that person's a doctor. That's not something most of us have. Most people around here have Chevrolets or Buicks or Toyotas or something like that. But obviously, Hermon is living in kind of an upscale location. We won't disclose where that's at in Hawaii. No, did I say that loud? No, just kidding. He's not in Hawaii, folks. Just kidding. So, okay, let's get back to the kids, Hermon. What's it been like for them? Are they blossoming? They've been here for a month. Are they excited? Are they into anything?
They're loving it. They're enjoying it so much. The freedom that they have now to go and explore the streets, the suburbs, and so forth, public spaces. I mean, they were farm kids, make no mistake. They've been used to the outdoors and everything, which is a bit of a culture shock for them this side. I mean, the trees are few and far between. But at the same time, they have access to stuff that they typically could not do back home. And probably the fundamental difference is, and this as parents, for us means the world, is that the moment the sun sets, there's no rush to lock the doors and get everyone inside. And you understand, now the groot gevaar is outside scenario. You understand? They've been in the swimming pool the other night till 9 o'clock. You understand? Something that they never used to. So that's a big difference for them. You understand? Same going into public and public transport. Here where we are, the bus system is phenomenal. I must admit, air conditioned, clean, on time, spot on, every single time. It's so reliable that you actually almost don't need a vehicle when traveling in the city itself. And my eldest, I can actually see him driving the bus by himself, using the bus by himself. Something that back home that you would never in your life would have considered. So for them, luckily, we arrived now luckily, unluckily for me and the wife, we arrived here in the school break.
Yeah, that's the best thing for you guys is that the kids get it. That's why I told you, Anna Mariki, the kids got a chance for a few months to get acclimated before they have to go to school. And so they could probably fall right back in on whatever grade they were on. Whereas sometimes you wind up coming during the school year and they put your kid back a year or keep them in the same grade and they repeat what they've already done just to get them on track. But school doesn't start until late August or September, so you're in good shape.
No, most definitely. But now we need to babysit them every day.
Well, I mean, hey, look, you guys decide to have kids, not me. That's your problem. No, but the flip side of that too is that the kids will they'll be around, so you get to build experience with them as you get accustomed to the new things you guys can learn together, and they'll be off to school. And here's the other thing: no school fees.
That's a big shocker. Even no transport towards school. I mean, they were so excited to see the yellow buses the first time. That's the connotation that everyone has with school.
Well, I mean, that's interesting for kids coming from abroad. They're excited about those yellow school buses. I rode on those yellow school buses for years. My recollection is the seats were too narrow, and boy, they were hard. But anyway, yeah. But I have to say this: when I went to high school, my school district was pretty good about updating school buses. So we always had relatively new school buses.
Yeah, no. Likewise, this side. And again, we had to deal, and something maybe for the listeners, they need to pay attention to the schools. You need to enroll the kids now, even though school only starts in August. And your school is based on your address.
Yeah.
A lot of you understand that is fundamentally different to back home. Is you understand that you need to your kids need to attend school in a specific area based on where you live. You understand? So, but the school options and everything is phenomenal. Apologies.
Sorry.
And something that was a big surprise to us: all the schools here are rated. They're given a rating based on their performance. So, before you even decide on the school, you already know the performance of the school. Something that they will never do back home. You know.
No, they don't want to do that because they'd be embarrassed by how bad things are. But some of these questions coming in, I find fascinating. Obviously, people have never traveled anywhere. So, Cobus van Eden's asking a question about using phones. Can you use the South African Vodacom contract SIM cards? Well, yes, of course you can. This phone has Vodacom and MTN SIM cards in it, but these are prepaid. The only problem I have is I don't have a South African credit card to update and pay for it to keep them active. So every time I go back to South Africa, I have to get new SIM cards. But if you want to keep your South African number active, you can do that. But I don't see the value in that unless you've got family that want to call you on a 2-7 number. But they're still going to pay. But you get roaming. Roaming charges are outrageous. So your best bet for a lot of people when you arrive, and Hermon, you can tell us your experience in a moment, but for a lot of people arrive, you come over here, say you come over as a refugee or a tourist to America, you've got your South African phone. As long as it's GSM phone, it's multi-band, it's going to work fine on the networks over here because we're GSM. And so that phone will work, but my recommendation to you is log on to Wi-Fi everywhere you go. Get your data that way. It's a lot easier. But the refugees, to my knowledge, all have telephones now and got them pretty quickly on this side. Hermon, what was your experience with phones?
No, likewise, Colonel. A word of advice: switch over to American number or contract as soon as you can. It's so much cheaper their side. There's no all of that shenanigans about this amount of data and talk time and so forth. It's extremely cheap this side. Yes, I had a Vodacom phone. I had roaming on. As we traveled, the plane had to refuel. At one stop, roaming was working. When we landed in Washington, our initial stop, the roaming was still working. But it was becoming problematic as we progressed. Versus the moment we switched over, it was straightforward, so simple to work. And your WhatsApp, everything that just continues, even with your South African number. But what you said about the Wi-Fi is very correct. The amount of internet coverage here, we literally flew from the airport to where we eventually slept over the first night in the hotel. There was constant Wi-Fi coverage everywhere. So you almost don't need a contract. You can just function on the Wi-Fi itself.
Yeah, that does the trick. I mean, it's, 20 years ago, this was a problem. I remember traveling when I worked for the National Security Agency and going to hotels, and you had to pay like $10 or $15 to use the Wi-Fi, and it was crappy, and it was dial-up. Not dial-up. It was Wi-Fi, and it was crappy, but it was dial-up speeds. And it was, it's changed so much, and it's just ubiquitous. Europe and the U.S., that stuff's everywhere. South Africa, it's everywhere too until load shedding comes or the batteries are stolen from the cell phone tower.
Exactly. Yeah, no. We actually had a dip in power. You won't believe a lightning storm. And the power fainted for 1 second. And my little one, the first thing she asked was, is it load shedding? And I said, no, don't worry. It was literally just a blink. So, yeah, no.
Well, there's all kinds of workarounds here. Face just added something here about using something called mobile recharge, which allows you to keep your phones. You can just, he's been over here for 4 years apparently, so you can do that. So you guys can check that out. There's always workarounds for everything. It's like, I was having a hard time downloading some videos online. I found a program that downloads everything. It gets around all the blocks on these networks. So there's always a workaround for most things. So Hermon, so are you glad you made the move?
Yeah. Without a doubt, I do not think back or look back for 1 second. In fact, as the days progressed and everything falls in place, and maybe that's something that the users need to understand. I mean, you're going to arrive here. It's scary, it's big, it's different, it's not back home. But as the days progress, everything just starts falling in place. Everything starts working. everything starts functioning and everything, and you settle in. And it's before you know, I mean, we can't believe it's almost a month now since we arrived, and everything is in place around us. We're starting to look at our forever home. We're starting to look at our forever employment, and all of these things. We already have the kids' school and so forth. But that feeling I had, not having to wake up, where's my rifle or my firearm? The smile on my children's face that I see every morning when they wake up, not having had the night terrors, not having to have that stress and worry, are we going to survive the night? Are we going to survive the day? You can't compare it. There's no comparison whatsoever. And I'm not saying that America is without fault. I mean, but the amount of security and peace and quiet that you have in your life to focus on what's important, bringing up a family, to focus on family, to focus on society, and so forth. We can do that now for the first time. Whereas back in South Africa, we simply could not. I mean, 90% of your time is focused just on survival, and it's almost like you're breathing again. It's a phenomenal experience, and words can't describe that feeling that we have.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I'm really glad that you and your family are settling in and feeling comfortable and really discovering all the things out there. And where you're at is actually kind of a neat place. I've been all over the country. I've also been to your now hometown where you're at, and I find it a fascinating place in Hawaii. It's not in Hawaii, guys. Anyway, but seriously. Yeah.
Maybe another thing, Colonel, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Something that was very noticeable was the amount of pride that the Americans, and I'm almost tempting to call myself an American now. I so wish to have that day for the citizenship interview. But flying your flag, being proud of as a nation, being proud of everyone, from the cleaner to the city manager to the guy at the hospital, is proud of this nation, is proud of everyone around you, irrespective of language, creed, and color. You understand? That sense of unity is something that we haven't had for decades in South Africa, and to have that and experience that and to be welcomed into it, that is something that there's a hell of a lot of misperception out there. There's 10 liberal lunatics running around on TikTok speaking as if they are the American population. That's not the case. Believe you me, we haven't been welcomed like this for ages in any grouping. You understand? I mean, 90% of us are already flying our American flags outside our homes. You understand? That pride, and it's unbelievable.
Myra Palizzi just gave a 50 Rand super chat, says for next coffee. Thank you for that, Myra. Appreciate that. And just a moment ago, who was that asked that question? Come on, my chat just dumped on me here. So I apologize. I'm missing who asked the question. But the question was, how much money can I bring with me? The United States Customs Immigration allows people to bring $10,000 or equivalent into the country without declaring it. By contrast, you can only bring 25,000 Rand into South Africa, which is a joke. That's like a little over $1,000, whereas you can bring 10 times that amount into the States without declaring it. You can bring whatever you want in the country, but you better have an explanation for it. I mean, if you bring a suitcase full of cash and sequential bills, you might have a problem with immigration. But you're allowed to bring what you want. You just have to declare anything over $10,000. So there you go. My recommendation is not travel with that kind of cash. A few $1,000s, or maybe even up to $10,000, still a lot of cash. You should be okay as long as you're smart about where you carry it. But if you can move your money digitally through banks or through financial services like PayPal or Wise or something like that, it's probably a lot smarter. But yeah, did you bring a little bit of cash with you, Hermon? I mean, what was your experience?
Yes, Colonel, we did, and that's maybe a heads up for those to follow. Travel light. It's a hell of a journey. Travel light, and for instance, on the domestic flights here, you need to pay for your own bags.
Well, you do now. That's a recent development. That wasn't the case before. Yes. And in fact, until 2 weeks ago, you didn't have to pay on Southwest, but now even those shysters charge you.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we had to spend that rand dollar equation.
Yeah, it's not going the good direction for South Africans.
No, for sure. That was a serious wake up call on our second connecting flight. We had to pay a hell of a lot of money for our bags. You understand? So travel light. It's so much cheaper to replace this side than to travel with it from South Africa. So a serious word of advice: be comfortable and travel light. You understand? You shoes and clothes and all of those things, you replace it much cheaper this side. And then on the funds, something they very quickly caught on back at OR Tambo about the refugees. And everyone that wanted to exchange rands for dollars were hassled quite a lot. And the rate this side to change from rands to dollars in the States is actually much better than back in South Africa. So maybe investigate that before you travel. And as you said, don't bring big amounts. It raises question flags. People need to explain a lot more than the other ones. And as you rightfully said, do it digitally. It's so much easier.
Yeah. No, and the other thing too is that something to remember too is when you buy things with credit cards. I don't know with South African banks, but when you have a U.S. credit card, when you're traveling internationally, you tend to, if they don't charge you a currency fee, which some do, many won't. If they don't charge a currency fee, then what happens is that when the charge hits, it's done at the interbank rate, which is preferable to what you can get when you exchange currency. So that's why I use credit cards most of the time when I'm shopping. I do carry cash for minor expenses and paying for car guards, things like that. But most of what I purchase using a credit card because I get a much better rate than I get from exchanging currency. When I lived in Botswana, it really sucked because South Africa refused to accept credit cards back then for petrol. You could only use a debit card. I didn't have a South African debit card. I had U.S. credit cards. So every time I brought my 4.7 liter, 484 horsepower Toyota 4Runner to South Africa, that thing drank a lot of petrol, and I'd have to carry stacks and stacks of rand, and that becomes dangerous in South Africa. So what I had to do was get myself a card from Bidvest in Botswana. I got paid in dollars, exchanged the money at the embassy, which is a good rate, went to Bidvest, they exchanged it to Pula, and from Pula they put it in rand, and I lost 25% of the value of my money every time.
Yeah. No. And that's something that we also, back to the culture shock or the changes. Something that, and it was actually a word of advice that someone gave us at the embassy, was stop the comparison between the two countries.
Yep.
Live American, think dollar and pounds and cents and pennies. The moment you get caught up in a vicious cycle of comparing between the two countries, you cannot do that. It makes you actually sick. You understand? And you'll buy nothing if you try and calculate it in rands every time. So the moment you decide, make that mindset change to dollars. Make the mindset change to where you are, and it makes life just so much easier.
Yeah, Jacques is asking if you can exchange at the airport. Yeah, at the ports of entry normally, like Atlanta and Dulles and JFK, you can do that. But there's only a couple money changers, and you can easily miss them when you're wandering around the airport and you're half asleep after a 16 or 17-hour flight. Also, those rates are horrible. I would never change money in an airport anywhere in the world. So you're better off going to a bank once you arrive. But of course, coins mean nothing, so don't bring any coins. That's just weight. You got to have bills. So again, use as much digital as you can rather than cash. But I think that's the important thing to remember here. And
yeah,
people are also asking about airlines, folks. The airlines have become true shysters. True shysters. So I paid for an upgrade for legroom to Economy Plus. I still only got one bag for Economy Plus. I had to pay. So I took one bag to South Africa on United because I got one bag to go all the way to South Africa for 5 weeks. What kind of crap is that? At 23 kg, we used to get was it 32 kg, 2 bags back in the day, and now it's down to one bag at 23 kg. So they switched to 23 kg about 15 years ago to cheat us, and now they're down to one bag at United all the way across the world. Delta still gives you 2 bags. Lufthansa gives you 2 bags at 23 kg. But here's the thing. When I came back from South Africa, Of course, all the wonderful gifts that people gave me, which I'm grateful for, but it cost me a fortune. Had to buy a suitcase. So I was at Santon, and I went into one of the shops there and right next to the Cape Union Mark there in Santon, and bought a suitcase that was on sale for about 50% off for about 2,000 Rand, so $137 for the suitcase. And then United charges $100 if you pay for the bag in advance before you go to the airport. So I brought back all those gifts, and it cost me $237. So it cost me about 4,000 Rand to bring that bag back. So keep that in mind, folks. If they put you in a United flight, you're screwed. You get one bag, and you better have some money to pay for the rest. Now, when you're in South Africa, you can use your credit card at the airport, but they're going to charge you more than $100. Well, I don't know what, I think it's 150 at the airport if you haven't paid prepaid. So it's up to the airlines, folks. And people are going to come over on commercial flights, which is what I predicted, and that's what's already happening now, the second, third group coming over. So, I mean, I think that's helpful there. How did they get a hold of you, Hermon? Did they call you or send you an email, or did they do both?
Both. It's usually both. It's 90% of the time it was a call, followed up by email, confirming everything that you discussed. So, yeah, and there's reminders in between and so forth. But a word of advice, check your calendar between the different actions. We made the mistake initially. You receive a point of communication, and then it feels literally like 2 years has passed before they contact you again. But when you actually check on the calendar, it was 2 days later. You understand? So, and I know exactly that feeling. You don't know if you're scared, anxious, whatever. Did they forget about me? Did my work get lost? And so forth. And that's something that because in South Africa, everything gets lost 90% of the time. You understand? So you're used to a system not functioning. The system functions, and it functions extremely well. They haven't forgotten about you. They haven't lost your papers, everything. It just takes a few days to process. But your perception of time gets lost in the whole applying process. So be reasonable. You understand? People send an email and then they expect the answer 10 minutes later. And then when they get one 3 days later, it felt for them like it was 2 months, or when in actual fact it was just a few days.
No, it's 100%. I mean, I'm getting thousands of messages every day from people and every possible means of communication. I don't even know. I didn't ask these messages. People freaking out and asking me if the program's still running. Of course it's still running. It's actually accelerated, and I report that. Please just watch my videos. I keep you updated. People need to be calm. And I get people really saying, well, Chris, you telling people to be calm. What do you know? Okay, then don't listen to me. Go elsewhere, you know? I mean, you're giving yourself a coronary for no reason. If you sit around and you worry about it, will that make the call come faster? No. If you sit around and freak out, it won't come any faster. So I know it's easy to say, it's different experience. Look, and we've all experienced things where we waited on something that was very important in our lives that our entire future hinged on, and we sat on pins and needles. But you need to go on with your life and continue to live your life and make preparations for when the call comes. That's what you need to do. I think that's the best advice anybody can get, Hermon.
No, for sure. No, Colonel, you're spot on with that one. Be prepared, get everything in order. Anticipate what you're asking for. So you understand, you can't apply for a program like this and then when it happens, be shocked that it happened. You understand? We've seen that as well. And then another thing, people must just please. I've said to someone the other day, with the media and everyone out there and all the experts all of a sudden, listen to the people that was willing to listen to you before this program. You were there for the Afrikaners and everyone long before the program was official. You understand? Yet they want to listen to the ENCAs and everyone that didn't want to listen to us back then. You understand? There's a handful of trusted sources. And I don't want to name names, but with compliments, you are one of them. There's so much misinformation and nonsense and shysters and everyone out there that it becomes overwhelming. Switch off all of that out of your mind. Focus on your application, your own process, your own household, what you need to plan and prepare for, and then follow the good Colonel, and you'll be safe.
Well, I really appreciate the endorsement, Hermon. Thank you. I thought I was the only one telling all the facts. I didn't know there were others. Just kidding.
No. You're one or two of the there's about 5 honest journalists left in South Africa. To be honest.
I think I know them all.
Yeah, you know them very well. But what I want to reiterate is there's so much misinformation. It's phenomenal. You won't believe it. The other day, someone asked me for advice, and I'm one of the 59ers, and I gave them advice, and I said to them X, Y, and Z. They argued with me and said, no. TikTok said so. And I almost was at the point to tell them, you know what, I'm actually a refugee. I'm here. I've done that, got the T-shirt, but they even still argued with me based on false propaganda. And please, if people can just shut the false information out of their lives, it would be so much better.
Yeah, no, it's I got some false information, which I don't think is intended by someone, but I'm going to rubbish what they just said here because they've misstated something here. But before I get to that, 2 points about the finance things. And once again, someone said, I think it was it Myra? Yeah, Myra Prinsloo said that, not Sandra Prinsloo, but Myra Prinsloo. So Myra said that when she came to the U.S., she'd use her credit card to do cash advances. And, she can get money from that. That's great, folks, but, or ATM, use ATM. So ATM to take money out, not cash advance, But the ATM, unless it's coming out of a bank account, if it's off your credit card, you're paying 18, 19, 20% interest on the money the moment you take it out. So that's not a wise idea. Now, if it's money out of your bank account that you're taking out, like savings or checking account, or whatever you have back at home, or whatever you call it, day account, whatever, you're not paying anything other than the fee, then maybe that's feasible because you'll get dollars. You're not going to get rand out of the ATM. But also, not every bank is on every network. So that's a hit and miss thing. But it's a way to do it. You can get dollars out of the ATM. I can't tell you the rate that's going to be if it's good or bad. But that is a method to do it. It's a good point there, Myra. And there was a point here by Paul Vandenberg offering good advice, but it's not going to be helpful for people coming to America. He said that, each airline differs. That's a fact. Emirates allows 2 check bags, 32 kg each. They do, which is still pretty generous. Nice. And $200 for an extra bag, which is actually a pretty good deal. Now, the problem with that, of course, is Emirates doesn't fly from South Africa to the United States. And unless we start sending refugees through Europe and Emirates onto the States, that's not going to help you. But he's just making a point. So that's just kind of how that works. Just so you guys are up on it. And there was a super chat that came in here, 350 Rand from LDDWT. For the calls, whether I get accepted or not, I'd rather give a little I have for the many who seek justice, peace, and joy for life. For them and their loved ones, sacrifice the ultimate gift. All I wanted to be is a military man for democracy. Well, thank you for sharing that. 75 on Delta for bags. Is that all it is, Ian? But you get 2 bags on Delta. I know that Lufthansa wanted to charge me $500 for a bag when I had an extra bag a couple years ago in 2022. I was able to sweet talk the guy into let me get on the flight for free. Someone's talking about containers. I want to address that. And they said that the cost of a ticket is about the same price as shipping a container from South Africa. That's not true. The cost of shipping a 20-foot container, which is not very large, is between $4,980 and $8,000. Dollars, not rand. $8,000. So that would be 1.6 million rand. Is that right? No, that's not right. That's too much. 160,000 rand. Is that right? That sounds right. Anyway, and then a 40-foot container, because that can run anywhere from $1,500 to $7,000. So if you can get one for $1,500, that's great. That's what a plane ticket's going to cost you. But the odds of getting a 40-foot container at that price. Also, the containers are only coming from Durban, most likely. So you're going to have to get your stuff to Durban. So your transport costs to Durban. Trust that it's actually not going to be stolen, put on the container, and shipped, and then arrive. You've got to have an agent to receive in America. You're going to have to pay for that. Then you're going to have it shipped onward to wherever you're at, whether it's Idaho or New York or Florida or Texas. So shipping stuff in a container sounds like a good idea, but unless you've got a lot of money, it's not a good idea. You all need to let go and, bring what you absolutely need. And as Hermon said, you can buy shoes here. You can buy clothes here. You don't need to pack your stuff. If you got a few mementos or family heirlooms that you want to bring, that's probably something smart to bring. But travel light, and you can get what you need on this side. This is the biggest consumer market on the planet, bar none. And everything you can possibly imagine is in America. And when we sort out the mess with the Chinese, there'll be even more stuff here. Yeah. All right. So
you're spot on with that one. Okay. It's unbelievable the amount of choice. From anything and everything, you have a choice here. Yeah,
there you go. So, that's the important thing. So let's We got a pretty big audience here right now. We got about 1,700, which is pretty good for this. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm looking to see if there's any questions coming up right now that I can ask you. Let me see. No, mostly comments. Some shipping companies allow partial loads of 15,000 Rand, but then you share the container. Yeah, and you got to have insurance. Yeah, forgot. That's right, Wendy Roger. Good point. You got to insure that too. So yeah, it's not as simple as people make it out sound. So let me give an example. A container to ship my car, because the only thing in it, my truck, my Toyota SUV, cost $35,000 to ship it to Durban from the East Coast. $35,000. So $1,000 is going to be 20,000 Rand. So 35 times that. That's what it costs. One way. So yeah. Anyway, just an example. But I remember when I went to Tunisia back in 2000, the air freight for my 1,000 pounds of household goods cost over $48,000 for the Army to ship there. It's crazy. So somebody just said $140,000 for a 6-meter container. $140,000 is about $8,000. Yeah, that's probably. You can team up on containers, sure, but again, whatever. You guys, you got to have someone to receive it. You can't just ship stuff to America. There's got to be someone to receive it. So you have to have an agent, because you're not going to be allowed to go in the port. I mean, you can have a delivery address, but anyway, go ahead, sort it out. But I think a lot of people, Hermon, are still looking at this like they're immigrating to America. You're not immigrating. They think you're coming here on a holiday. I mean, the biggest questions I get are, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? What am I going to get? Well, you get to live. Isn't that enough? I mean, I don't mean facetious, but right?
Exactly. And the moment you make that mind shift, actually, off the record, it was phenomenal to see even the agency this side, their comments about the fundamental difference between the types of refugees. They said for the first time they saw people that arrived here that are not interested in any of the benefits or potential benefits or whatever the case might be. Everyone's question is, we want to work. How soon can we work? And where do we apply? And if you have that mindset, you're going to make it far in this country. I mean, if you're willing to get off the couch, there's nothing stopping you in America to make a success of your life.
Yeah, and it's a great time to come to America. 4% unemployment. We're kicking out illegal aliens, which is opening up millions of more jobs in addition to 13 million currently vacant. And we have a shortage of high-tech skilled people, which we need. We have a shortage of people in genetics. We can always use more professional farmers. We always need more roofers, more builders, more carpenters, more electricians, more plumbers. You got those skills, and you come over here, you can do quite well. Someone asked a question earlier about starting a business. I don't know if it's a fair question for Hermon. He's been here all of 30 days, but anybody can start a business here. But of course, you're going to need capital or you're going to need credit. That's going to be hard to get unless you have a bunch of money deposited in a bank. So, some people able to start businesses very cheap. Your spouse starts, knitting something right there on the couch, puts it on Etsy and starts making money. But to start a business, you're going to need capital, and that's not going to be so easy. But give it time. It goes by very fast. He's already been here a month, doesn't even realize it.
No, for sure. The mindset this side is phenomenal, Colonel. To get anything started, you just need to be persistent, patient, and willing. The moment you do those three things, you can practically do anything in this country. And then something that's important, and a lot of people don't realize it. The demand for the trades is phenomenal this side.
Yeah.
If you can do something with your hands, and I'm talking from forklift driver to bus driver to plumber, electrician, and everything, it's an extremely high demand this side. So the moment you can do anything with your hands, you probably will find work so much faster than anyone in an office this side. And contrary to back in South Africa, here it's actually some of the highest paid opportunities is the guys that's willing to get their hands dirty. So that is something that is fundamentally different and a culture shock.
Oh, no. Look, electricians, HVAC technicians, plumbers, these people in some places make $250,000 a year. And that's why so many of them have their own business, because they make a fortune doing this stuff. It's so expensive to do that. Stone says, not at my office, Personal Effects Shipping Company in Kempton Park, $118,000 door-to-door from Pretoria to Fort Bragg. Well, yes, Stone. And what is Fort Bragg? a Department of Defense installation, and who is that contract with, and who negotiates on a global scale with mass volume? The Department of Defense and or the Department of State. So I'd be shocked if $118,000 rand, applies to every customer who comes to your company. And if that's not a discounted rate for the U.S. government, then I want to know why you're not giving us a discount, because we're bulk buyers. Anyway, all right. So Hermon, any final thoughts before we wrap up here? I want to thank you for coming on, but if you want to something you want to share with the audience about, whether it's patience or perseverance, or it's all going to be okay, because it's been okay for you guys, right?
No, it's been phenomenal, Colonel. Not sunshine and roses. It's hard work. Sometimes you question yourself a bit and so forth, but it's worthwhile a million times over. It is. You cannot compare it. And once again, to get back to the point, why are you leaving South Africa in the first place? It's for survival.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is your life worth? Just maybe something that I want to add for the listeners is the elderly folks. And I see that comes up quite a lot in the questions and so forth. From personal experience, they've been doing phenomenal work to accommodate family units. It's important for them not to break up families and keep families intact. They mentioned the perfect refugees on this side. It's actually families, not military-aged young men. You understand? So don't worry about that. They still need to be vetted. And make sure when the Americans say they're vetting you, and they're vetting you proper. They'll know every single thing about you that there is to know, including your elderly parents. But they make special consideration for them, their circumstances. If you're retired back in South Africa, it doesn't mean you are worthless to America. There's a place in the sun for you as well.
Yeah, a couple more comments here. Expat Joubert family saying the checking cars are cheap at the side. Yeah, we don't have a ridiculous value-added tax. You have sales tax in many states, but we don't have value-added tax, which is not value-added. It's just government theft. That's why there's a difference in prices. Also, you have a tiny market of a few 100,000 cars per year in South Africa. We have 20 million cars per year sold in the United States. Volume. And when you could sell 1 million cars, you can only charge a little bit and still make a fortune over what the cost is. So two things very quick on Super Chats before we go. Eugene von Skalkvik said, what type of work permit do you get as a refugee? I'm asking from an employability standpoint prior to green cards in your area. As a refugee, you are expected to work if you're able to work and make your own way, because the assistance you get only lasts for a few months. And so you're allowed to work immediately, but you can't work until you have a social security number. That's the hang up. Your status over here with your visa gives you permission. You must apply for a green card within 12 months of arrival for permanent residency. So that's how that works. And then there was another one that just came in a moment ago. Where'd it go? Hang on. What work is Hermon doing, and how long did it take him to get work that side? Well, Hermon is not doing any work because he's going to do some work here shortly. Excuse me, I got to hang up a phone call here. Somebody just called me. I'm going to do some work here shortly, but he found work almost immediately. Thea, who will be back on the program most likely on Saturday, went for an interview, and the first job she was interviewed for, she was offered a well-paying job in her industry, which is in the hospitality industry, and she starts work on Saturday, just a month after she arrived. Unemployment is at 4% in the country, and where Hermon is at, it's closer to 2.5%. So it's pretty low. Hermon, you want to add anything to that? I gave you your last chance to talk, but some super chats came in.
No, apologies. No, you're spot on with that one. To be honest, there is millions and millions of opportunities. It actually becomes burdensome to sift between them. You almost feel ungrateful because you need to consider which one that you actually want to do. So the opportunities are endless. Just something that maybe the viewers can pay attention to. Get your CV ready while you have time. Don't come and do it in your first week here, because you literally can get employed within your first week. We had our social securities within, I think, 7 or 8 days. You understand? And then you can work. Your permission to work is stamped in your passport. So the moment you enter, they want you to work. But two fundamental things. Your CV, 2 pages. Throw the essay style of essay away. They're not going to even consider you. They want a simple version of your CV, 2-pager. And then the biggest thing here is they work on merit, and it's something that we do not know anymore. We're not used to it in South Africa. The moment you called for an interview, they want to know your experience. Can you do the job? There's no other qualifications or pre-qualifications that they even consider. They don't care who your aunt or uncle is or what government contract you ever had in your life. They want to know that you can do the job. The moment you can do that, you find employment here within a day.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cool beans. So Leon sent a 14 rand super chat, says, always great interviews. Thanks, Chris and Hermon. You're very welcome for that. And yeah, so there's a few other questions here. Guys, if someone asked a question about epilepsy, I mean, what restrictions do you have working epilepsy? I don't know. I mean, you can work any job, I suppose, except in a disco with flashing lights. I mean, I don't understand that question. Heidi Kruger just gave €2.49. Cold drink money. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, Heidi. All right, Hermon, that's going to wrap it up here. We've run over about 20 minutes longer than I intended because people had some really good questions. You had some great input. Again, welcome to the States, and we'll chat again and stay in touch. Thanks for reaching out and offering to come on, because I'm going to have to make a new playlist just for the interviews with refugees so people don't have to go hunting through the 50 refugee interviews that I've made or 50 refugee videos I've made, but just have the interviews because a lot of people want to hear this. But thank you so much for coming on, because it puts a lot of people's minds at ease, particularly in light of the lies and nonsense that are being spread by people in South Africa and some other South Africans here in the U.S.
No, for sure. Colonel, again, from all of us, thank you so much for the tremendous work that you've been doing. You are truly a beacon of light for all of us. And to be honest, a lot of this would not have been possible to bear and to process if it wasn't for the sense and sensibility that you've been putting out there, the facts and the truth. And I must compliment you. 99.999% of the time you are spot on, even before the actual release of information. So thank you from all of us. I know I can speak for the 59ers out there. Thank you very much for what you've been doing for us.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's a distinct pleasure. Thanks so much. Two more quick things before we go. Bradley Brookman asked the question, are you over-analyzing? Bradley, you're over-analyzing. Let it go. You put a statement of interest in, it's going to be fine. And then someone said, well, can't you just WhatsApp call? Yeah, you can WhatsApp call. I try to WhatsApp call everybody around the world. But you have to have a phone number. So if you have a prepaid SIM card from South Africa and you don't update and put more money on it, and you're gone more than 30 days, and you don't make phone calls from or send texts, then they're going to retire your number and you'll have no WhatsApp number. So, having WhatsApp, you can use it. But in fact, that's how Hermon and I spoke earlier over WhatsApp. But you got to have a phone number. All right, Hermon, I'll let you drop off. Thank you so much for being on the program. I'll wrap up and then we'll get ready for my news program here. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye, Donkey.
Dankie, Colonel. Mooi dag.
All right, cool beans. There you go. So that's Hermon, and he got himself off there pretty quickly. All right, folks, thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the viewership. Thanks for tuning in. For those interested in the news will kick off here in about 5 minutes. I'm going to have to get up, stretch my legs real quick, and get the stream ready. But the news is ready to go, so we'll see you in just a couple minutes here for the news program. Thank you so much to my guest. That's now the fourth interview with a 59er. And we'll have another one on Saturday and possibly an interview with someone from the second group coming up sometime soon. All righty. Cool. Rita, I don't know what number it's going to be. I don't have that answer for you. Sorry. All right, guys, that's going to do it. And be sure to hit that like button. We don't have 1,000 likes. There's 1,700 people here, and we can't even get a like on this. Gosh, I mean, the guy took the time to come on here. We did it anonymously, but he did take the time to come on, and I'm giving you my time. Can you at least hit the like button? All right, guys, thanks a lot. Cheers.